There are 4,218 PS2 games, and I'm beating every one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing everything on the original hardware, but I've beefed it up with a RetroTink 5X, some component cables, and more to come soon. Can I do this before I die of old age? I hope so. Metal Arms Glitch in the System was developed by Swingin' Ape Studios and released in the US November of 2003. Split between the three main consoles of the time, GameCube, Xbox, and PS2, Metal Arms released to decent scores of 83, 82, and 81 across the board on Metacritic. Sadly, being the only game by the studio, they were eventually acquired by Blizzard, where a sequel most likely will never be made. Can I beat this rock'em sock'em robot game? I was told many times that I was in for a treat once I started Metal Arms Glitch in the System, and to be honest with you, I do feel like it was a great game. It was a lot of fun. I think on my tier list, I would give it a low A. Obviously, on my tier list, it's just an A or an S or a B, whatever, but I would say it would be a low A for a couple reasons that I'll get into as the journey goes on. But this was a super, super interesting game, and if I was going to compare it to a game, it would be a little bit closer in comparison to Ratchet and Clank. Now, that is because there are cool weapons that you get that gain power as you go on through the game, and the more you find, obviously, the more you have access to for fighting harder enemies and a plethora of enemies. However, the differences are that in Metal Arms, you don't have levels that you go through snaking paths to find like items that will help you through different levels, almost slightly like Metroidvania style, where you need to go back and find the right thing to get further in other levels. This is not that type of game. You go straight through the game, all the way through, one clean go through each level, and you get to the end of it and you go to the next one. I don't know if there's a way to go back and do anything in those older levels, but you won't really miss too much, because in any level that you find upgrades for your weapons, you can find them in a shop at other levels. So you aren't necessarily going to miss anything except for secret chips that unlock multiplayer levels. So they are not at all required. And the multiplayer is not online. It is offline multiplayer. And for the PS2 version, it is 2 players maximum. So it's not necessarily something I was interested in. So it's a nice, clean, straight-through, story-driven game with a lot of interesting voices. By the way, look up the voices for this game. There's a lot of really cool voices that were in here. And it was just a fun time. And I really do wish they had been able to make a sequel, because this game sets itself up for a sequel, I think, in a good way, with a lot of the story elements that it has. So why not go? Let's go. Let's start the journey. Metal Arms takes place on the planet Ironstar, built out of junk and metal and stuff like that by an ancient race called the Morbots, who have disappeared and are theorized to be living in the middle of the planet, where there's a core that apparently has enough energy to run all of the droids on the surface and all of their technology, which is kind of neat. But they are afraid to go down and see if the Morbots are actually in the center, because they are afraid that they might get like deactivated, although they know nothing about them, so I don't know why they'd be so scared of them. However, that's just the case. So instead of going down to the core, they stay up on the surface and they do whatever they want to do up there. Eventually, some of them want to further their own technology, including a bot named Exavolt, who tried to push the limits of their technology and accidentally created a monster. And his name is General Corrosive. And once he comes out, he begins manufacturing his own bots called Milbots, and they take over the planet from the normal droids, who are, I guess, peace-loving. Our character is one of these droids, so they're all peace-loving, and now they're being taken over, and anyone the Milbots find, they deactivate and recycle into new technology for the Milbot army. And so obviously this is terrible, because the droids are nice and the Milbots are not. So a small band of droids get together and try and take out General Corrosive. Exavolt is gone, who is the person who made him, and they were hoping that he might be able to help them take care of General Corrosive, but no one can find him, so their only hope is to try to go through the ruins and find deactivated bots to regain consciousness and come fight for this little droid, resistance. And so that is the premise of the game. And at the beginning here, some bots find you, Glitch, in this pile of robots, and they bring me back, and they reactivate me so that I can help them fight General Corrosive. Here are the controls, very simple controls. You have a melee attack that is absolutely useless. You have a secondary and primary fire button, which your primary fire button are your guns, and your secondary are your grenades or little extra buttons. The quick select is something I never really used, which was interesting. I think I could have put things on them, but I never did. Instead, square and circle, if you hold them down, allow you to cycle through each of your weapons as primary or secondary on your left or right hand. And it's pretty easy to do. It pauses time so you can choose and select what you need, which is nice. It also explains a little bit about the weapon you're looking at in case you forgot or need to know about an upgrade you've just gotten on your weapon. You have a jump and a double jump, and that's about it. Metal Arms is a fairly straightforward platforming / action adventure type game where you gather guns, you gather chips, you do a few things in each level, and there are actually a decent amount of variations in the levels, both level design and mechanics that you'll do. You'll be driving a car, you'll be playing Simon Says, you'll be pushing buttons, you'll be taking over other bots, on top of just running around and shooting and destroying things. This first level, of course, is like a tutorial where it teaches you all about what you can do as a bot, and it's very short, but it also helps to understand things. And because this game has so much personality, it's great. The way that people talk, the dialogue, and some of them just like swear and curse at you, and they say silly things. The voice actors do a great job being frantic and hectic and crazy sometimes, and silly. It's a really good game to just like sit down and listen to. So even the tutorial is kind of fun to play. During the tutorial, I start to realize that Glitch's movement is very slidey and kind of momentum based. And I'll be honest with you, it's hard to control him on edges where you need to look over to shoot an enemy below you. It's hard to control him when you're trying to platform sometimes. And yes, you can get used to it, but honestly, I don't know why it's so momentum based. The bigger bots, when you take control of them, do have momentum because they're big and they get like a good head of steam up, but Glitch is small and should be able to stop pretty quickly. I mean, I understand a little bit of momentum, but sometimes it's very difficult to control him on platforms. I find myself jumping to a platform from far away and just sailing either right over it or landing on the platform and not being able to stop. Like you land on the platform after a jump and you just keep sliding right off of it. So sometimes you have to pay attention to what you're about to do, like a platforming section that needs you to land somewhere specific. You might have to jump way earlier and hope you land with just enough space to stop your sliding momentum. Oh yeah, you also have to be careful about blowing yourself up, which is very easy with things like grenades. You actually can be pretty far away, seemingly, from a grenade explosion and get killed if you're low enough on health, especially on the harder difficulties. Like I said, I'm playing on hard mode, so that's just what's gonna happen. We begin the game with a simple mining tool that, while it does damage, does very little damage, and it does have infinite ammo. It simply needs to cool down. However, the very second weapon we get that we pick up off the ground for the first time is the Ripper that shoots saw blades out and will cut through things to knock them down. It isn't used a ton of times, although there are instances where I'm probably sure I missed using it to help me, but it isn't used so often that you will be using the Ripper for lots of puzzles. It is used a few times, but I never found myself using it too much, especially because it doesn't do a lot of damage to enemies. It is more of a utility weapon, although I think it can cut parts of bots off, which actually leads into bots do lose access to their legs and their arms and even their head, which obviously if you get rid of their head, most of the time they're dead, but you can break their arms and their arms will sometimes fall off or swing around wildly while they fire, but they can't aim it, so it just fires into the air to the ground, like around. It can still hit you, but it drastically reduces the amount of times they get to hit you because they can't control it, which is kind of neat. So you could use it to sever parts of another robot. Early on here, I find a chip somewhere that allows me to activate this console and take over one of the droids or one of the Milbots in the other room. This is something you'll do quite often throughout the game, especially when you get a weapon that allows you to do it without the console. It's very helpful because obviously this bot does not represent Glitch. When he dies, you get control over Glitch again, you don't lose. But if you have Glitch and you die, you have to restart from a checkpoint. So it's really nice to take one of these bots over and just destroy a bunch of bots who would otherwise kill Glitch. So you'll find that this is very useful. Now in this section, you need to do this because it's the only way to activate a door for Glitch to get through. It's very rare that you'll have to do this, but in this section, it really teaches you exactly what you can do with a bot you control. Now, this first one you have an infinite amount of times, but once you get further on in the game, you will not be able to reactivate that console very many times. It'll pretty much just be 1 or 2 goes before the bots are dead. But here, you need to do it until you open the door. At this point in the game, we are simply stopping the robots, the Milbots, who have found our secret base. And if we can destroy them all, it will both save us and prevent General Corrosive from knowing where our secret base is. Because obviously if he finds it, he'll be able to kill us very easily. Now, while we go through here, we are After we repel some of the forces, we actually fall down into the mines where we have to still clear out some of the Milbots here because they are trying their best to find both our secret base as well as establish their position even harder on the planet because they're about to take over everything unless we stop them. As we head through this next level, we find some more of the pickups that we'll be using through the rest of the game. While you're traveling, you'll find guns all over the place, hidden spots, in boxes, from enemies, whatever you need, but they will be extremely useful because ammo will be light with how often you have to shoot enemies in the hard difficulties, so you'll need to search everywhere for all the ammo you can find. There are also 2 health pickups, one small health pickup, which is a greenish yellow, and a dark green one, which will heal your health to full. You will also find all of the different kinds of grenades hidden everywhere and from enemies. So like I said before, you'll really want to search the environment to find everything you can because you will run out of resources very quickly. You also find blue chips in some levels. Blue chips will help you activate consoles and find your way through doors, and they aren't very often you'll find them, but when you find them, it'll be very obvious that's what you need to look for. You also have golden chips, which are secret chips that will unlock multiplayer levels, which are just multiplayer levels on the console. There's no online, so it's not necessarily useful unless you really want to 100% the game or you really want to play with one friend on the PS2. The GameCube version, the Xbox version has 4-player, but PS2 only has 2-player, sadly. And there are also some temporary pickups like a shield and a speed booster that you'll find, although I didn't find them very often, so I didn't rely on them. They were only very useful near the end of the game, and honestly, even then, I just didn't find very many of them, so I'm not sure why I didn't find them, but it would have been helpful during some of the harder parts of the game to find some pickups like a shield that allows you to literally live through all projectile-based attacks. So, whatever, that's fine. Anyway, throughout all of this, you'll also find det packs, and these are very specific to the level. They are pretty much just C4 you place on a wall that will blow it up and allow you to progress forward. It's very obvious you need them, and they are in the area directly before, so there's no special thing for those. Just find them and move on. As you can see here, you'll sometimes find yourself inside of a vehicle, and doing so is dangerous because while you can do more damage, fire rockets, do some cool things like using the little claw to pick enemies up, it is very big target, and your health is actually dealt damage when they shoot you, so you can very easily get killed inside of one of these vehicles. And I don't oftentimes find myself using them because it's easier to go behind cover and fight that way. The vehicles are cool and they are helpful sometimes, but man, in the harder difficulties, it is just very difficult to do. I forgot to mention the last pickup you'll find, which are nuts, and they are your currency in this game. You'll use the nuts to upgrade your weapons and to buy ammo from the shop, as well as health sometimes, especially in later parts where you need extra health. You can come back and pick some of those up from the shop. You'll find these 2 dudes selling stuff in random levels, not all the time, but in random levels and in random spots. As you get close to them, you'll hear this cute little shop music. You'll go to them and you'll buy what you need. The upgrades for weapons are very, very, very helpful, and you'll want to get as many as you can as soon as possible. Although some of the best ones are your machine gun, your rocket launcher, your shotgun. Those will be the ones that you'll want to upgrade first, although you can find some of those upgrades in the environment. So it's not always necessary to buy them at the shop, but honestly, you might as well buy them as soon as you can. That way you have less trouble. But you can also buy ammo, which is very helpful in later portions of the game. Like I said, when you're using 20 rockets to kill one enemy and you need 20 more to kill the next one, then at least you have a way to get it. Our goal in the mines is to use these det packs to explode the entire thing and destroy the Milbot's presence down here. Obviously, they are near our secret base, and we can't have them here. Also, this is probably disrupting a lot of crap on the surface for us, the resistance, so this is just a win for us. Once we arrive back on the surface, our droids are fighting tons and tons of Milbots. We get to meet a couple new types of enemies on top of it, but this is the section where we are pretty much on our last stand. This is the last spot we need to really clear out, and I'll be honest with you, it is fairly difficult. There are large areas with our guys fighting the Milbots, which our guys will help us, and that's cool, but it is still tough because there are so many enemies that will respawn, and once you kill enough of them, you can move on to the next spot. You'll need to search everywhere for ammo, grenades, and health, and make sure you don't kill your friends because that also can lead to a game over. So you can't just go throwing grenades everywhere, otherwise it's over. I do quite like the sections after we kill a couple waves of enemies and we're allowed to walk around and look for stuff. There are little jump pads that launch you up onto the tops of these buildings, and you can look around for secret stashes of weapons and grenades and ammo and all that good stuff, which is a lot of fun. I think it's fun to do this, and some of the spots they hide things in are difficult to get to. You've got to platform onto roofs and find your way over to them. I really liked that in this spot because we weren't under any constraints. Like I wasn't going to fall into a pit of lava and die. I was able to make mistakes and figure out the platforming here, and it felt pretty good. But later on, when you can die falling off a ledge, it starts to feel a little bad. Combat in this game is difficult for two reasons. One, enemies are tough. They just have a lot of health. You only have so much ammo, and you don't want to waste all of it by missing too many times, or you're shooting the wrong enemy first and then getting killed anyway. So you really need to find out a way to take care of enemies in an efficient manner. And some of those ways is to shoot their arms to stop them from shooting you, and to just shoot them in the head to kill them the quickest. Although it is hard to aim, because the other section that makes this game difficult during combat is, if you can see on the screen, low FPS in combat scenarios like this. In larger areas with lots of fighting going on, the FPS drops down to an abysmal 10 to 15 frames a second, and it is hard to aim in those situations. It's hard to move. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's going on during big explosions with robot parts flying everywhere and your frames are down to 10. It's just impossible. And it makes it even harder when later on in the game you're just scrounging for ammo and health during large combat sequences, and it's just you're just living on a prayer at that point, man. It's just difficult. After we finish this level, we realize that we've successfully defended our town. However, one person escaped who can go tell General Corrosive where our hidden town is. His name is Vlax, and we must now chase him and stop him before he gives him this information. We are thrust directly into a driving mission where you have no control over the gun. In fact, you just drive the vehicle. And let me just say this, driving vehicles in this game absolutely sucks. There is, for some reason, a half-second delay in whatever you do when you turn, so it really throws you off, on top of the fact that the vehicle turns so sharply. So the second you tap the direction, you better hope that you have given yourself the right time for your vehicle to then turn, and you've held it for as long as you need to, because it doesn't happen right away. So it's always this like guessing game. Did I press it quick enough to turn this corner? Am I holding it too long and I'm going to just slam myself into the closest wall? Am I going to smash into these barrels which blow up and, by the way, can hurt your health? And if you don't get out of the way of them enough, you'll just kill yourself on the barrels. I mean, not even the enemies will kill you. It's just the barrels you're running into because it's so hard to control. The driving sections in this game are terrible. I hate them, and I don't wish them on my worst enemy. Once we get done with the car mission, we meet a new type of enemy, which is really neat. It's these guys who, when you shoot, they fall apart and they will reassemble one time, although they'll reassemble as long as you keep shooting them too early. When you knock them down the first time, you must wait until they fully reassemble and then shoot them again with enough damage to kill them. If you shoot them while they're reassembling or before they've fully reassembled, they will be able to re-heal themselves yet again. This is like Doctor Who like logic. If you hit him while he's regenerating, it's not going to work. You got to wait till after he's done regenerating and then hit him a second time. And that's exactly what you got to do with these guys. Now, the new weapon you get here is the shotgun, which is just wonderful. It is one of the best weapons in the game, unless you're from very far away. Rockets are then the best, but this weapon is just so powerful, and when you upgrade it, it shoots like quad barrels out at enemies or something like that, but it is just so utterly strong and a weapon that you'll use until the very last mission of the game. So use it wisely. It's also great for these guys because obviously a shotgun blast to knock them down, and when they fully re-put themselves together, you shoot them one more time and they're dead. Next, we get a new weapon, the bolt gun, which acts kind of like a sniper, although it also has an incendiary round it fires, and at level 1, you fire it and it will attach to any surface that you hit. and then it will explode a second later. It also tells you through this little scope that you get along with it what the enemy's health is and how they're doing over there, which it wasn't always helpful to know, but it is kind of cool to use it to see how much health an enemy has left. But this is practically the only weapon you can use with the scope, and you'll want to use it a lot. As you level it up, you'll find that you can hold down the fire button to charge the bullet inside of an enemy and make it do a higher damage explosion. So the original shot you do takes a couple times to actually kill them, but once you get that charged up shot, you can charge it all the way up and kill them in practically one shot. And if you don't kill them, you can pretty much dismantle their arms, making them useless anyway. It's a cool weapon, although it's still not as helpful as the rocket launcher or the scattergun, the shotgun. Each of the levels can be surprisingly long. There were some people who were telling me that some levels were longer and shorter than each other, which of course that makes sense, right? Different kinds of lengths of levels. But man, regardless of that, they're all very long. Some of them take way too long because of how difficult they are, and some of them do overstay their welcome sometimes, but it's not often. There's just a lot of variation, and so you'll find that it only gets that way during a couple of the levels later on. The next level allows us to play as our new friend Moser, who is voiced by the guy who voices Krunk in Emperor's New Groove, as well as Joe from Family Guy, which is pretty cool. He's got a strong melee attack, as well as way more health and more defense, and a bolt gun that he can pretty much just use at will since he has no ammo reserves. It is just infinite ammo. So you can just fire and fire and fire until you have to reload and go again. There's no reason to stop. You might as well just blast him to smithereens. Directly after this level, we have to fight a boss. Now, it took me a second to realize what I needed to do, mostly because the first time I actually damaged him, it wasn't immediately obvious. I didn't know exactly what I had done. What you're supposed to do is, after he attacks a few times, throw a grenade into his open mouth when he stands still. I thought you could hit with rockets. I thought I had hit him with the grenade the first time. Sometimes you just need to really get that grenade in there perfectly, otherwise it doesn't do the damage. And you have to do this quite a few times. On top of after a couple damaged phases, he then summons those guys who can reconstruct themselves. So you'll need to have him use his little big mace that he shoots out and break open these pads in the floor so you can get some things to help you out. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to do enough damage and survive those guys also attacking you through each of his damaged phases. If you can do it quick enough, you can beat him. Next, I head through some small maze-like areas where there are some turrets manned by Milbots, and if you can destroy the Milbots on them, you can get on them yourself. Not that they're very helpful though, because like I said, these are non-moving targets that will be able to be shot and you take the damage yourself. And it's very easy for the bots to shoot you in this thing. You can't move, so there's almost no reason to use them. They just don't do enough damage and don't keep you protected enough. But on top of this, we get to meet the next new enemy. This enemy you'll be fighting and seeing throughout the entire game. He is a very tough enemy all throughout. He can kill you very quick. He has a big machine gun and rockets. He can also jump up pretty high in the air and do a slam on the ground if you're too close. So you cannot get too close to him. You must disable his arms or just blast him in the face until he dies. And he takes a lot. And like I said, this is early in the game and you'll be seeing him for the entirety of it. So just prepare yourself for fights with like 6 or 7 of these dudes in a row, wasting all of your ammo. At this point, I've got myself a rocket launcher, which is probably my most used weapon for how useful it is everywhere in the game. There's a good section here where you can see jumping in and out of cover or jumping up in the air and firing your rocket outward. If you jump once, you can fire immediately at the peak of your jump, getting you over small barricades that will allow you to be safe and the enemy to get hit by your rockets. But you got to be careful because you take a lot of damage from your own explosions if you accidentally miss. Now, if you double jump, you cannot fire your weapon until you come out of the flip animation. Then you can fire, so it's almost useless to double jump and fire. Just no reason to try and do it. So in the end, one jump over a small enough barricade to jump and shoot over is perfect. This next level is actually fairly difficult. We're pretty much assaulting one of the Milbot bases looking for Vlax, and during this time we get to ride on tanks if we so choose. And honestly, you're gonna want to so choose, because these tanks are very powerful and some of the enemies here are just too high in number and those bots are just too strong. As you can see here, even several blasts from the tank don't kill that guy, and you can get shot very easy by everyone in the area. So you need to take them at a distance and really be accurate, or you're going to die too often. There are gun placements on top of this wall. There are bots around corners. They will hunt you down from like a mile away, so you gotta be a little bit careful. And jumping out of the tank can also mean death if you're too close to another enemy, because they can shoot you and you have no way to retaliate. This was one of the harder sections in the game because it's so freaking long. There are lots of places for enemies to hide, and there are tons of tough enemies all over. You need to scrounge for ammo and health constantly, and you've also got these stupid little bots who start appearing who can activate alarms if you don't kill them in time. They'll find you, activate an alarm, and even more enemies will come after you, meaning that you can kind of stealth through some areas, but eventually you'll need to just kill everyone, and that's what I end up doing, coming through here and fighting every single Milbot. Health and ammo do not despawn, so if you have a long level, remember where you left some helpful, important pickups behind you to go back and get them. It is worth going far back to get them so that you can complete the mission. Otherwise, it just becomes so difficult at times. And some of these areas like this are just open everywhere. You must try and find your way to a safe space. And doing that means you need to have a decent amount of health, because if you get caught out there, it's very easy to die. We've got more tank level and more areas we need to go through and just blow everything up, including some ships in the sky we start seeing that are a lot more aggressive and much more strong than I expected. Also, as you're going through each of the levels, if you get out of your tank, any other Milbot can just jump in the tank and come get you. So you can't just leave your tank in a spot where enemies are pouring in, because they will get in it and start blowing you up. And if they do that, you're screwed. Those tanks are so strong, and you can't get out of an area you're stuck in. Like this one, I got the det packs, but one of them jumped in the tank, and now it's impossible for me to leave. He's just going to shoot this enormous explosive shot at me and kill me. So best to like hide your tanks. We are now at the forced turret section of the game, and at first, the first two waves of enemies aren't too bad. They do get a little tough, but if one single vehicle, flying or driving, make it into your base, you lose. And I'll be honest with you, at this point, I had turned off the auto aim or aim assist, which in this game is not what you think it is. It is called target assist. It is a little different than the aim assist you expect. Now, I'll explain that when I turn it on, but because of that, I find myself not being able to land all of my shots, even if I'm directly on them. It takes way too many to kill these guys, and because they randomly show up, I spend maybe an hour going through this section until finally I get a pattern of enemies that isn't impossible to kill before they get into the base. Because like I said, you've got to watch for both flying and driving. And as you can see here, they move so fast, if one of them makes it in, you're done. That's it. So you've got to turn quick, you've got to look all over the place, and you've got to hope they don't come in waves that are split exactly down the middle where one person goes left, one person goes right, because you'll never be able to kill them in time. Once the pattern came up that was easier for me, I was able to do it. The next level, as we're going through the inside of this base even further to locate Vlax, is also very difficult, because it's such a confined space with lots of big, powerful enemies shooting rockets at you. It's very easy to get caught in both their explosions and your own explosions. So you'll find yourself needing to be very careful by hopping in and out of cover, looking for every little box that has ammo in it, and hoping that you don't get hit as often as as they're getting hit. You need to hit them way more often. That's just the case. We also have a new enemy in this level. This slim, skinny type bot does two things. One, he will zap you if you get too close, rendering you just motionless for about a second. It does damage, and it allows their friends to shoot you, but he can also heal his friends, which means that if two of them are next to each other, they might get caught in a healing loop where they heal each other over and over and over, especially if you're shooting them with rockets and they're both taking damage. They will both not want to stop healing each other. You can absolutely outdamage their healing though, so don't worry about that. But it is weird for them to turn around and just start healing themselves, because then you want to stop fighting them for a moment until they stop healing themselves, because there are other enemies around the area. So it's not easy to deal with them, especially if they're near the big bots here. These guys, if they start getting healed, will just never die. So you got to be careful. This stage is fairly difficult with little openings in the walls where turrets can shoot out from them, so you've got to watch coming around corners, otherwise they'll just catch you off guard and kill you. You've got different consoles to use bots to go into rooms and fight a bunch of enemies, which honestly you have to use, man. You have to use it. And it's really helpful to, when you're about to get damaged as glitch, go to a console and just start using it if it allows you to use it infinitely. This one over here does allow you to use it infinitely. Now, something I didn't mention before is when you take over a bot for any reason, with your weapon that you get later or with the console, you lose signal when they get too far away from you. You can get so far away before it does this, but while you're controlling them, you are invincible. So it's worth just taking them and using them as much as you possibly can, getting them as close as you can to where enemies are and taking out as many as you can. Because like I said, you can't die as the bot with glitch, so you just lose nothing upon the bot dying. So it's absolutely worth it to just keep using it over and over. The next level has us controlling Krunk, who is walking around this area up here trying to get to us. And the nice thing about his kit is that he has the ability to take over any other Milbot by shooting them in the back with this special gun, a gun that he will give to us once we're done with this mission. It's not too difficult since we're learning exactly how the gun works, but you must sneak up behind someone, wait for the reticle to turn green, and then you can take them over, using all of their abilities as your own. I don't know if they lose like the amount of health they usually have, because sometimes it feels like they don't have as much health as you'd want them to, but you can use them by just sneaking up on them and getting them, and eventually you get every single one of them until you clear out all of the rooms. It's not necessarily that hard this first time, but it is a very, very useful weapon to have later on in the game. Now that we have his weapon, we get opportunities through some of the levels to find a bot just sitting on the ground facing away from us with that little red mark on his back showing towards us, which will allow us to use the tether to actually use him and walk around with him, which is nice. It at least gives you the option sometimes, because you can use it on anyone who does not currently see you. So if you can get some other bot to be backwards and sneak up on them, that's great. But this at least reminds you that it's very possible and very, very helpful. Having another bot as your minion for a little while is just so unbelievably helpful in this game. Once we escape the facility with Krunk, we find ourselves in another vehicle section, and this one is absolutely horrid because you are not driving, you are shooting. Now at first I did not have assisted targeting. As I said earlier, I never had it on. Now I turned it on because as I go through this level, you must shoot and kill enough enemies to not die. You have no choice because Krunk is driving, or the dog is driving, Zabi is driving, or something like that. Someone else is driving and you have no choice where they go. They will ram into things. If you don't kill things quick enough, they'll just stop and like try and turn around in areas, and you'll get hurt way too much. You need to be very accurate. You need to destroy barrels in your way. You need to destroy enemies before they even get a shot off. And that is almost impossible without the assistant targeting on, because instead of just being a simple like moving your reticle towards an enemy, like aim assist, it also kind of seems to determine where your bullets go. When I turned it on, suddenly I was killing things faster, even with the same kind of aim. Even aiming directly at them without it on wouldn't kill them very fast. But the second you turn it on, it's like the bullets just magnetize towards the most damaging area of the enemy you can shoot at. For some reason, I don't know why, but it was like apparent that I do this. I tried so many times for like an hour and a half trying to do the stupid mission, and every time I got near the end, I just die because I would get shot too much. One of the biggest points of contention are the flying ships here. They are very, very powerful, and the only way to successfully stop them from damaging you is to shoot out their 4 guns attached to these arms. If you can do that, they won't be able to shoot you, which you can see them dangling down the second I shoot them. They dangle straight towards the ground. You can even knock them all the way off. But they are so strong and quick to fire at you that you have to be able to do it quick. If you can't, there is no way to beat this level. There just isn't. So turning on assisted targeting is almost necessary for me because I couldn't deal enough damage. I couldn't kill them. But once you finally get to the end of the level here, you then fight Vlax in his little vehicle. Once you destroy his vehicle, you get out and you shoot him with your rockets until you kill him. The next 2 levels really ramp up the difficulty as you are in a Morbot city where you're fighting all of the Milbots. Now, the Morbots are the people who are supposedly have made you in the first place, all of the bots in general, until you guys made the Milbots, which kind of sucks. But you're in this city that the Morbots made full of Milbots, and it is just a difficulty spike, man. This is where things really started to take a long time for me to complete. There are sections where you can get into vehicles and shoot stuff. There's a new enemy, this like metallic green enemy that can fly up in the air. He uses a staff to do melee attacks as well as these green lasers to do damage, and you can take one over to reveal the exit to one of the levels here. You can fly them around and fight each other. It's very fast. They are tough regardless. Like, if you don't take them over, they are very tough to fight because they are so fast and can fly up high in the air, meaning that it's never apparent which gun you need to use against them until they finally solidify their position. Like, are they coming after you? Then pull out the shotgun. Are they far away? You need to shoot them with the bolt gun around corners and hope that you can blow them up before they come after you. They are a difficult fight, like all over the game. Yes, the big bots are very tough and powerful, but these guys will hunt you down. Eventually, to actually get through this level, we must use a console and take over one of the flying ships. This is a difficult task, I will tell you what. On hard mode, there is so much going on. Now, you have 2 attacks with this ship. You have the purple lasers, which deal a moderate amount of damage and do have some kind of travel distance, as well as the explosive shots, which you use and they will fire until they are done firing, and then they will have a cooldown period. They are strong, yes, but they are slower than the purple shots. You must lead your target by quite a large amount, and it's almost not worth using it because you are constantly fighting 2 or 3 other ships at a time. It's really not a big deal to open these doors by shooting this little pad flying around. It's really just the ships. Once they come out and they're fighting you 3 at a time, you have to be real careful because they are also fairly accurate. This part took me a little while, and if you die as this bot, you do lose. Apparently, they won't let you ignite to a bot or anything like that. Like, you lose, you've got to restart from a checkpoint and come back here and do this again. At the beginning of the next level here, we have one of those new green predator dudes just sitting on the ceiling, and you can very easily use the grapple gun to take him over. And then you can fly around beating the crap out of people. Obviously, this is like the most fun thing to be able to do because these guys don't die. You don't lose the level when you do this. In fact, you just fall into pieces when you take people over and you can't get shot. So it's only these guys that get hurt, and it's just nice to be able to fly around and shoot things and not have to worry too much about dying because you die very quickly. Now, one of the funny things is enemies will think you're malfunctioning until you actually attack them. So if you don't attack them, they'll walk around you and talk out loud about how you're malfunctioning and to get back to your post. But if you start attacking them, you can also lose him very quickly. All the enemies are just so strong, man. In the next level, we get to play as Slash, who wields a flamethrower, which at first seems like it might be pretty useful. But after he gives you his weapon when you complete this level as him, it is not a helpful weapon. I never find myself using it. It just doesn't do enough damage, sadly. So he's really cool to use for the time being, but just isn't useful enough later on. This section of the game isn't hard. Whenever you take over as a character, it's usually pretty easy, and then you get their weapon. So, not too bad. After this, I get stuck on the next couple levels for several hours. They are very, very difficult, with lots of enemies everywhere, super strong versions of these bots who now have shields that you must break before you even deal damage to them. And you can't always deal damage with some of the weapons to shields. Something like a grenade or a rocket might bounce off of him. Your bolt gun will just bounce the bullets off of him so they won't stick to him and do damage. In an explosion, they will initially do a little damage to the shield, but you really have to take it slow here and try your best to just get little pot shots off here and there. You do have a shop at the beginning of the level. If you turn around in this section right here, there's a shop you can go buy ammo at. They have, I think, unlimited amounts of ammo, but you don't have unlimited amounts of money. So you need to make sure you get good shots off. This is the part in the game where I begin using the grenade to recruit enemies to my team way more often. I find that having one of these big bots or one of the turrets to be extremely helpful. They all have a lot of health and they do a lot of damage and will take the heat off of you for a little while. Going to buy them at the shop, they only have maybe 1 or 2 to buy at a time. You can easily get some help in these levels, but you have to hold on to the grenade and look to see if the enemy has a purple mark above their head. If they don't, they cannot be recruited. But as the game goes on, you are able to recruit more and more enemies, eventually being able to recruit anyone except for bosses or mini bosses. So you need to watch out because everything in this game is useful except for things like the flamethrower, which just doesn't ever end up being useful. But the recruitment thing is so utterly helpful. Like, it is way more helpful than you expect. The second you have someone on your team running around fighting with you, like one of the big bots who have the shields, that shield will last the entire time they're your friend. So use it wisely. You end up getting a vehicle at one of these parts, but there are just so many enemies that like driving the vehicle is not helpful all the time. And this section right here is terrible. You cannot walk in this water down here. You must go forward and activate some of the enemies coming out of that door, fight them before you go too far forward, grab one of these bots as your friend who I'm trying to get to come over here to help me, and then slowly make your way through. There are so few health pickups at this point that if you don't have full health, you're gonna have a bad time. It's just so tough, man. I like it though. It's fun. It's just super tough. In this level, we must disguise ourselves as one of the spy bots, one that the Milbots can control, but obviously we are in control. So what we must do is we must search through these areas and find what we need to get out, but we cannot be spotted as moving around because then they'll know we have a mind of our own and immediately kill us, disassemble us, whatever. So here we must look through all the different things while this guy is away, wait for him to leave the room and you can look around. When he's coming back, stand still in this spot so you don't get killed. We must continue to look like one of the spy bots and we must play a game of Simon Says. And this is a little difficult because I didn't realize it was a Simon Says thing at first. Like right at first I was confused and this guy yells out to do things. And if you do them all correctly, you can get through here. But if you don't, you have only a couple times to mess up and then he will say that you are a spy and kill you. Otherwise, you just need to pay attention. When the green thing shows up where your character is supposed to be, as long as he has told you, command, go here, you are safe. But if he just says, go there, obviously, just like Simon Says rules, you will get caught. So just be careful. These next couple levels, I actually am getting better at playing the game as I've played the game for about 5 or 6 streams now, probably almost 20 hours. Getting close to at least, because this game is very long. There's a lot of levels. There's about 42, 43 levels in the game, and the length of them are just very long. And this one I actually take a little bit slower since it's much more about the placement of where enemies are while you are trying to platform over some perilous waters and just make the jumps correctly so that you can move on. And it's a lot easier to take it slow and kill things in a way that doesn't get me damaged or killed. So I actually die very few times in these next upcoming levels, although if you look at the bottom right, you can see my lifetime deaths are quickly approaching 3,000. About an hour in, this is where I begin to reach the number of deaths to 3,000, man. There's just a lot going on here, and even taking over one of these bots still makes it difficult to fight these guys coming out of this area. There are too many of them, and the bot with the shield is just so freaking strong. And if you take over that bot and you're too far into this area, you are stuck. And here it is, everyone. We have reached 3,000 lifetime deaths. Now, I think I'm probably actually a little bit more than this because I only began counting those deaths at around game 30 something or other. So there's probably quite a few more there, maybe even another 200 to 300 deaths that I did not count. But at least on the stream here, 3,000 deaths. It's crazy to think how many deaths it's taking. How many deaths do you think it will take me to beat the rest of the library, huh? What number do you think it will be? These next upcoming spots are very difficult. There are roads full of the alarm bots. You must jump up on top of these places with turrets, kill the turrets, and then if you can get one of the flying ships to get low enough, you can use the recruitment grenade on them, which is invaluable, but only if they get close enough. Otherwise, it's like impossible. The next section has you fighting these green predator droids, and you need to take one over somehow. It is not easy. You need them to lose sight of you and get not interested in finding you, and then you can sneak up behind one and hit him with the tether. Again, it is not easy to do because once you do this, you then must find your way up to the middle of this building in the middle of the level and go inside to actually activate the next part. But I didn't know that for the longest time. It doesn't make it apparent that's what you need to do. So I spend a ton of time fighting these guys and they respawn indefinitely. The goal here is to actually kill a couple of them and then use an EMP grenade to stun them. When they're stunned, you can then use the tether grenade to get one and fly up there. But it just wasn't very obvious. I didn't know that's something it wanted me to do. Our last mission was successful and we find Dr. Exavolt, the one who accidentally created General Corrosive. However, it turns out not to be such an accident, as when we bring him back to our base thinking he's going to help us, he then activates a beacon showing General Corrosive where we are. Then we get attacked. We must now fight our way out, with Dr. Exavolt being a bad guy we have to try and find, although we do not find him. These are the same areas from the very second missions of the game, where we were repelling some of the forces and we got to jump around on these jump pads. We're fighting in the same spots with some of our same allies, but the enemies are much tougher now. We have the predator droids and we have these big red guys who also shoot and swing at you wildly. They can't fly, but it's just a difficult time. So many guys respawn over and over, and you do get checkpoints when you beat each of the areas. But I found myself having a lot of trouble staying alive, so there were times where I needed to look around the environment for anything I could find. The magma grenades suck. The other grenades are actually pretty helpful. One of them will actually allow you to target an enemy up to 3 at a time, and they'll go over, and they're called cleaner grenades, they'll go over and like attack them, so you don't have to aim them necessarily. Very helpful, but you don't find them very often. And they aren't super powerful, but they can be helpful in some situations. Overall, this is just a very difficult section of the game. If you have any EMP grenades, you can take over one of the bots, but it doesn't always work very well because they all turn and try and kill you immediately. Sadly, at the end of that mission, we are captured and forced to compete in some arena battles for the next few missions in a row. So let's see what they give us. Each time we start in this arena, we must pick a weapon, at least the first couple times. Once you pick the correct weapon, because there is a correct weapon to pick at least in these first couple, then you can go through and try and beat every single one of the enemies in this area. Once you do, you can get through to the next one. These are some of the shortest missions if you know what to do or are able to do them quickly. The first time I picked the shotgun, not very helpful. The next times, though, I picked the tether gun to take control of a bot. You only have this one weapon, so yes, it is kind of weird only having the tether with no weapon to actually shoot any of the smaller bots. Instead, what you must do is sneak around, find a way to take over one with the tether control, and then beat the crap out of the rest of them. In the stage, there are EMP grenades. You must be quick though. If you walk into your own EMP grenade, it will make your reticle go all around the screen and it will make it hard for you to actually interact with the guy you're trying to get. As you can see here, I die before I even get into him, and then I just walk around with my guy being dead. I know that it's going to end badly, so I think I just give it up here and try again. You cannot walk into your own EMP grenade or you die. This next one I choose the shotgun because it does not give me access to the tether gun. However, we have some friends who are in the arena as well, and lots of pickups everywhere. As long as you're careful, most of the enemies are fairly easy to fight, and you can get through this one in a few minutes. This next one sucks because you only get the slingshot. The slingshot fires your grenades in an arc, which seems helpful, but my god is it difficult to hit these flying ships. So you have to fly around the stage as fast as possible, picking up health, picking up grenade pickups, and finding places to hide yourself so the ship can't shoot you. And man, is it difficult. Once you finally get this ship's guns broken, you can kill it with the grenade launcher. I guess it's a slingshot. The last part of this is General Corrosive himself. If you win all of the matches, you actually get to fight him, and he is impossible to beat. So what you need to do is make it look like you have been destroyed. And to do that, you pick up a wrench and disassemble yourself quickly. He then thinks you've been destroyed and will pick you up and take you out of the arena. You reassemble yourself outside. All of your weapons are waiting for you behind the vehicle here, and you have a time limit. You must reach a rocket by getting in this vehicle and driving. And my god, is it horrible. You must pick up all of your weapons, or at least the ones you want, as quick as possible. And let me tell you what, I really wanted to keep all my weapons just in case. It was really helpful at the end of the game here to do this, although you barely make it back in time. The timer is very tight. You cannot make mistakes or you don't make it. I think I made it with only a few seconds left on the clock, and I did a really good job. There are a couple times where you get out of your vehicle and you must find another vehicle, going through a small section where you fight enemies and, well, I pretty much just ignore them. There's no reason to fight them. And honestly, the vehicle driving in this game, like I said, is so utterly terrible. I understand if people liked this part, but only a little bit, because it's just so frustrating to control this vehicle. It's just the delay on turning makes it so hard to tell when you need to turn and how sharp you do. And when it's a delay, it feels like I'm confused. I'm like, what is happening? Why am I not turning in time? It's because there's a delay and it's super, super sharp. So if you make it through this, congratulations. We are nearing the end of the game, riding up in this rocket into space where they're going to start taking everyone over because obviously we're the last part of the resistance left. We must take over some bots in this section, otherwise there's no way we're going to be able to win. It's just so chock full of people and things. You need to take him over, use him to fight everyone, and clear out the area for you. There are a lot of vertical areas, and sometimes you get caught if you jump down too far. You won't be able to get back up the same way, so you need to move slowly, taking over bots when you can, recruiting members when you can, and hopefully not dying to the insane amount of damage all these enemies just throw at you. After going through quite an ordeal of places and enemies, we finally get to fighting General Corrosive, and he is invincible. What you must do is go around the stage in this big, huge circular area, blowing up boxes with any weapon you can. We need to find some helpful pickups like the speed and shield pickup so that he can't kill us. But also while we're doing this, we must grab 4 chips, and we need to go to a center console, and once we have the chips there, we can take control of General Corrosive, making him do a self-destruct on the ship, and hopefully killing him right there. But this part is very difficult. You need to learn where the chips are and in what barrels. Now, they are in the same box every single time. So once you learn where they are, you can just fling yourself over there as fast as you can by picking up everything that is helpful and just going right for the chips. Now, one thing I didn't realize was that all 4 chips are somewhere in the level here, but there's a 5th chip apparently you can get from the guys in the shop in a very secret little hidden place. I thought that was the only way to get the last chip. Apparently it's not. Someone said that it's really just a flex if you use that as one of the chips to beat him, and I thought it was what I needed to do, so I freaking did it. I went over here and you ride one of these things up, and across the way the shop is there. You can buy one of the chips without having to find it, and you're pretty safe once you're up there, except for the fact that he's trying to blast you as you're here. Once you get the chips, you control him and you destroy everyone in the room. As General Corrosive, you are invincible, and you have a 10-minute time limit to kill everyone in the room. Don't be fooled though, you see my time limit is pretty low. It's because I didn't realize I needed to kill everyone. I thought the time limit was just, I don't know what we're doing. I was talking to chat for a while, happy that the game was close to being over, and talking about how fun it was, and then I realized I needed to start killing people. So I came in and started killing people. Activating the console blows the ship up practically, and we have to escape, trying to get back down to the planet. Sadly, when General Corrosive hits the ground, he does not die. He does, however, become vulnerable, making this the last level in the game, the last boss fight. We are now able to actually deal damage to him, and it doesn't mean it's easy. My strategy was to hide behind a wall where he could not actually hit me, and it's very easy to find. This one in the middle here is pretty helpful. He can't see to shoot you over it. You can jump or back up and fire over it and hit him. Using rockets is about the best thing you can do here. Now, every so often when he takes a lot of damage, he will release one of the predator drones and he'll come to get you. You can either worry about him or just ignore him. It's most likely helpful to kill him as quick as you can, so the second you see that predator drone fly out, pull out your shotgun and hope he comes close. You are hiding, so he has to come get you. If the predator drone gets close enough, he will come get you. Sometimes he just wanders off, doesn't know what to do. But if you leave some of the pickups around you, you'll be able to pick up those health pickups in like dire times, pick up some ammo, but as long as you have enough rockets, you'll be able to kill him right here, just pelting him over and over. I found running around the arena just not to be helpful enough. You could take too much damage, too many predator drones following you around, but this right here worked like a charm. Once I destroyed General Corrosive, all the Milbots stop working, everything is safe, and all of the regular droids are victorious. We did it. We helped everyone. We saved everyone. We did a great job, and we have this very slow falling rain in the air, I guess. I'm not really sure what those are. Those like, is that confetti? I'm not sure. I don't know why the bots have confetti, why they would have made confetti, but we do see at the very end, Dr. X-Volt's in space saying he's going to come get us, and we never see another game. So sad, because we don't know anything about the Morbots who made us, and we don't know where Dr. X-Volt is going. So it'd be kind of cool to see what happens next, but we might never see it. So this is the end of the game. I am giving it an A because it was super, super fun, but what keeps it from getting it a high A or like even more praise is the FPS drops and the terrible driving sections. I'm not putting the difficulty in as point loss because I picked hard mode, so I don't think it would be fair. I specifically could have picked normal and gone through at this default difficulty. Most people will pick that, but it was still fun even though it was so difficult. So around 28 hours later, I beat the game. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it if you watched the video all the way through. Thank you to anyone who's donated or become a member of the channel. This game was a request, so someone requested it. You guys make this channel possible. We now have over 160 games on the list. 3 years of games to play. Maybe less, maybe more. Who knows? Eventually we'll get to all of them, so if you donate or become a member, you will absolutely get a pick and you get to put it at the end of the list. It's a lot of games already, but there's 4,000, so don't worry, there's more to pick. Thank you to anyone who was in the stream. It was a great stream. It was really fun to play. You guys were great. I really appreciate everyone who took part in this, taking part in this challenge with me, who's hanging out. This challenge is just so fun. So I will see everyone for the next video, Pimp My Ride, soon. Later.